Hey there guys, Melodic Gaming here again. This is going to be the next episode in the series of the bariatric surgery journey. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more depth on exactly what the surgery was. So, we did the sleeve. The sleeve itself is the act of removing a larger portion of the stomach, leaving you with a pouch that is much smaller than the original, whereas the bypass sort of cuts out a section of it and then reattaches the intestines to that while keeping your stomach intact. It's a little bit... it's hard to explain, but in the long run, I believe personally the sleeve is the better choice for me. Talk to your doctor on what's going to be the best for you, but the sleeve was the best for me because I was eating all of the correct things. I was just eating a little too much of it. So, simply reducing the size of my stomach, the pouch as they refer to it, would be more than enough to help me lose weight. And it was. So, we went with that. Come surgery day, I'm prepped, I get into the surgery room, I put the mask on, they start giving me oxygen, we tune the oxygen so it's not like suffocating in a way, because if they give you too much, it almost feels like it's forcing and suffocating you. But that wasn't the case. We got it all tuned out. And then he said he's applying the anesthesia. And about 5 seconds later, I'm waking up in the recovery room. Now, the process that I went through, they used a machine. And essentially, it makes an incision kind of in the middle of the chest. And then about, I guess it's like 3 or 4 inches below it, they make another incision, an incision to the left and right of it, and then an incision a little bit further to the left on your body to make a total of 5 incisions. They go in, the machine cuts the excess of the stomach off. Apparently, the whole blood loss is less than I believe it was, they referred to it as a tablespoon in the entirety of the surgery, which is very incredible. And after they did all of that, what they do is they put a glue over it. I believe they stitch it shut, but then they put a glue over it that protects it, and they kind of give you the little warnings on what comes with that glue, like no oils. Apparently the oil will dissolve the glue. But water's okay, so you can shower. Just don't bathe because soaking those too much can cause them to kind of peel up a little bit at the sides, and you don't want that rubbing against your clothing because it'll irritate you. But showers are perfectly fine, and the glue will eventually kind of just fall off along with the stitches. That being said, I'm now in the recovery room, and they're bringing me to the room that I'll be staying in. Each surgery is a little different. Mine said approximately 1 to 2 nights of a stay. First night was basically exclusively IV drip and a little bit of liquids. Water. They'll bring you some warm water to make a broth. They may bring you a tea or maybe a decaf coffee. They may bring you a Jello. They may bring you a popsicle. That's going to be your first night exclusively, and they'll want you to drink approximately, if I remember correctly, it's at first it was 1 ounce an hour, and then they want to see if you can do 2 ounces an hour. Then they want to see if you can do 3 or 4 ounces an hour. They have benchmarks in order for you to leave the hospital. Those are things like getting up and moving around. Like you have to get up and be able to move around every 2 hours to help avoid blood clots. And also, it's just good to get moving. But they also need to monitor your pain. How much pain are you enduring? Is there a lot of nausea involved? Like before the surgery, they gave me a patch that I put behind my ear that fell off in the surgery. But then they also gave me an injection into my IV that was a nausea medication. And they gave me a medication that was a nausea medication. They want to make sure there's no nausea because anything like that can irritate the stomach so heavily. Just imagine after getting like a surgery and you're vomiting or something from nausea. Well, that's going to put a lot of strain on a stomach that had just had surgery. So they want to avoid that at all costs. Your benchmarks are going to differ slightly. My benchmark was bare minimum 48 ounces of liquid. I was easily able to get that by day 2. Well, and day 1 was the day of the surgery. Day 2 was one night later. The only reason they kept me an extra day is they kind of wanted to monitor things because of my blood pressure. I was having a little bit high blood pressure because I have naturally high blood pressure. And they wanted to make sure they kind of knew how they wanted me to take my blood pressure medication. And they eventually came to a very, very appropriate medical conclusion on it. But in your hospital stay, you will have plenty of opportunity to get the liquids you need. And if you are progressing well enough, they will even give you a protein shake in there or a protein drink, kind of like a Gatorade, except it's just exclusively protein and kind of has a chalky aftertaste sometimes. Mine didn't have a chalky aftertaste, but I know some of them do. In the hospital, it was a very warming environment. Because then you're recovering from surgery. At least my hospital automatically sent the orders of liquids up at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every meal consisted of this. It was either in the morning, it was a decaf coffee with Splenda, a cup of warm water with a broth that I can put in it. They used herb ox is what it was. It was beef and chicken broths. Then they will also send you up with a bottle of water, a cup of ice, and a Jello. Now, for my lunches, they changed that coffee to tea, and then for dinner, they changed that coffee to tea as well. But for lunch, they would also throw in a popsicle. I don't even know what the brand of popsicles was. It was just a generic white little wrapper that you would take off the popsicle and you'd eat it. But they just want to make sure you can get plenty of liquids in at this time. And once you're cleared to go, they will give you what you need. For me, my discharge had a little bit of modification to my previous medications, but they also gave me forced Tylenol. So like take it every 6 hours for the first few days, and then you can kind of wean off it. Again, your instructions will be very different than mine probably, but they wanted me to stay on the Tylenol for the anti-inflammatory nature it gives to the stomach for the first few days. Then they also gave me Lovenox shots. They're just blood thinners, 2 times a day for a month. Kind of rough. We were doing them underneath the arms at first, but that was very painful. I talked to my nurse and she said it was more than okay to do them on the very low part of the stomach, way below the incisions. You don't want to do it near the incisions because that can irritate the incisions and cause a little bit of problems. But you can do it way lower on the stomach, far below the incisions, and it's more than okay. So that was much less painful and a bit more tolerable. So surgery, and then 2 days later, I was released to go home. Here comes the day after I've been home. Sleeping in my bed was admittedly a little bit difficult because the bed I had at the hospital had a bar above that I could grab onto and kind of like help shift and pull up. I didn't have that on my bed, so it was a little bit more difficult. We had to use a technique called log rolling, where I kind of turn onto my side a bit, shift up using my legs as weight, and that helped. You will have a physical therapist that most likely visits you on your last day of a stay to help discharge you, and they will kind of go over ways to help with keeping your incisions very relaxed during that. Then you also have OT visiting you. You'll most likely have a respiratory specialist visiting you as well. And before you're released, you may be talking to your nutritionist, or they may talk to you the day after. Mine talked to me while I was in there. You will most likely also have a case manager discussing things with you. But the day after the surgery, I'm sitting at home and I kind of felt great. I mean, they use a opioid in the surgery that lasts in your body for quite a few days. And mine was it lasted 4 days. They give you a little wristband you need to keep on, because if you need to go back in, they need to know that that's still in your system. So once that time was passed, I cut it off and then we were good to go. But my recovery feels so far very tame. No real complications happened in my surgery, which is good. And apparently complications are super, super rare with the sleeve anyways. But recovery is important. Sitting down and relaxing whenever you can. What else would be a good thing to discuss? Ah, okay. My doctor had told me, now that your doctor may tell you different things, but what I experienced was what felt like tightness in the stomach. And my surgeon simply explained to me that your stomach has had a lot of trauma. It gets confused about whether or not it's full from a sip or whether it needs more. So it'll often have a random pang of pain. What he told me to do is just take in 6 deep breaths and it'll go away. And if it doesn't go away, it could be something more, but give it 6 more breaths. Um, I experienced a lot of those pangs on those first 2 days home. But again, after 2 breaths, they would go away. Not even the full 6, and then not even the checking 6. It was 2 breaths and they'd go away. Very, very relaxed. Now, for that first week when you're only on liquids still, where it's the broths, the decafs, the water, Gatorade, Jello, popsicles, it's going to kind of wear on you. And one of the important things that the psychiatrist tells you is don't let that affect you. Don't let that give you a what is referred to as buyer's remorse. Now, that is a natural thing because of such the trauma happening to your body. It actually kind of changes the hormones in your brain for a little bit. It's like an actual process that happens that is predictable. It is a depression caused by the surgery that usually goes away within the first 2 weeks. I personally haven't even experienced it yet. I think that I kind of got my emotional state out during my other medical complications, so I kind of already came to terms that that surgery was going to be finished and my life would be changed. And a lot of people kind of think about it as, oh, well, you won't be able to eat as much. Will you be able to have fun? There are plenty of ways to still eat like out and eat with friends. That'll come later. I'll discuss that later. For now is just that first week where it's the all liquid diet. Towards the end of it, I was starting to feel hunger pangs. Like not just the little tenseness in that stomach where it felt like it was a tight ball, but actual hunger pangs. And it was thankfully only on the very last day because the next day it transitions into the second stage of your return diet. Because depending on your surgery, your diets will differ. For my sleeve, the first week after surgery, including the days that you are recovering in the hospital, only liquids. And the 2 weeks after that, you add some very, very soft foods. It's not the soft food portion, but you add things like refried beans, you add hummus, you add yogurts, cottage cheese, like strained gentle soups like split pea soup or butternut squash soup. Very gentle things. Always listen to your doctor's recommendations because some doctors' recommendations on what to eat are different than others. And it can also differ for surgeries. So always listen to your doctors on that. But that's kind of how mine went. The first 7 days weren't really that exciting. It was just water broth. I had Jello and popsicles and Gatorades to help keep electrolytes up. Always take your medications they recommend. Always take your Lovenox shots. And I have a planned meeting with my primary care doctor because that bariatric center is so far away. He's going to check out my incisions, and then I'm going to have a virtual visit with that bariatric doctor. Now, most people will, if their hospital is near them, you'll just have that meeting with your normal bariatric surgeon. But since they're so far away, they allowed me to go see my primary care physician that's right here, have him write an analysis on what he looks at when he sees the incisions, and give that to the bariatric surgery center. Because they don't want me to drive 2 hours for a 15-minute meeting to drive 2 hours back. And always talk to your surgeons. They're very understanding people. But that's not even yet. Like I haven't even seen my primary care physician yet because today is literally the first day of the second stage of my bariatric diet. I will give you a little bit more on that in the next time. But for now, that's kind of all caught up. We have getting into the surgery and then surgery through the first week. The next video will be weeks 2 and 3. I may just post a video on week 2 and then like a video on week 3 to kind of see where the progress is going. But for now, that's it. We're all kind of caught up on everything, and I feel really good. The surgery went off without complications for me. Not a lot of pain. Just to make sure you are resting your incisions when you can, because they are going to be very tender. They're going to be very sore. And my personal restriction when I went home was no bending, no straining or heavy twisting. And it was a weight restriction of 15 pounds they put me on. So no lifting anything more than 15 pounds. No bending over to pick up anything. So that's a little bit rough. That one's kind of rough, where you can't like bend over to pick up things as well, but you'll get through it. And you'll come out very strong thanks to it. That'll be it for this one, and kind of thank you guys for bearing with me through this journey. I know it's not the most exciting thing just talking about it. It may give you anxiety, but in the long run, I know the surgery is a good thing for me, at least. Maybe other people will have a better chance with not doing the surgery and just going with a diet or something, but I know the surgery will help me out a lot. I know plenty of people it helps out, and I even, just as today, joined a support group in my local area of people who all have partaken in the surgery. I didn't realize how many there were. And it's not like it's a secluded, reclusive a group. It's just, you don't really think about the people around you, and of course you can't see their stomachs, so like you don't know. But there are so many people in this group, I didn't even think about it. So they like to get together, share opinions and stuff, and like set up dinner nights where they go out to a restaurant, they order their portions, and then you take stuff home. But it's very warming to know that like I had such a big number of people around me that have also partaken in this journey, and being able to talk to them is kind of nice because it reassures you that things are going to go well. So I also recommend joining one of those groups as soon as possible. It took me a week to do so, but check it out. Like when you get out of surgery and you can, look for one. Try to join something to help you keep that community sort of contact up so you don't feel so alone in the process. And I think that can definitely help out like the mental portion of it. Other than that, again, that was the first week. Next video will be on week 2 probably, or weeks 2 and 3, who knows. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful evening, morning, night, whatever time it is for you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Pay it forward, and always support those around you.